Hello and welcome back to KivyTips. In this episode, I'll show you some fancy stuff you can do with Kiwi language. Let's call it hacks, as it isn't that obvious to use them. However, for some, they introduce some missing functionality to the language. Let's start with a simple run touch up example with a button. We will use its own release event to make some simple property changes, probably the ugliest way possible. Let's start with the lambda function. Wrap it in the brackets and add another pair of the brackets at the end. This way, you can call the lambda in place, but because the language uses another wrapper for such calls, it will be called when the button is pressed. Check the console output. Changing the text is also easy to do now with the setUtter function. Let's use it to add a widget to the button's parent. Also, notice the last pair of the brackets. They work exactly the same like an ordinary function. Therefore, listing is possible. You can happily pass arguments to it. Can we change the background color too? Let's add more of those widgets with a single call. Ask a simple question. What does a list comprehension actually do? Well, except the obvious stuff, it executes the code before adding it to the list. What we want to do won't work with the generators the same way, because we need the comprehension to call the required stuff, whether it's a statement or a function. Calling a function which returns none in a list comprehension basically adds a none to a created list. We have to do something with the list, otherwise it might get stuck somewhere in the Kiwi link and cause a leak. So, How do we actually make something disappear in Python? We have to remove any existing references to the object. Therefore, we'll make a list full of nonce and then pass it to some argument ether, which will be another lambda. Non is a singleton. It doesn't waste the memory, and the list will disappear later. With Python 2, however, the range built-in allocates memory for the items in a real list, so use exrange in there and don't waste the resources. That being said, our code was already long enough. Adding the ether will make the line even longer, and we might soon enough reach the line length of some uglier programming languages. What we can do with the KeyLang is that we can create something similar to symbolic constants, or basically a macro in C language. Here, however, it's way more powerful, because the set directive of Key language actually uses a safer version of eval. We know what set directive does now. Let's continue with the lambdas. Let's create a underscore it keyword with value of this lambda, which takes arguments and the keyword arguments and returns a none. That none after the colon is the returned value. So, we know that for loops in Key language are possible through the list comprehensions. Cool. What next? Next we will create a function that will be properly formatted, which means it will take proper arguments and execute them n times. This underscore 4 basically calls a C callable n times and passes arguments a and keyword arguments kw each time. If you use Python 2, just wrap the print statement into some function outside of the Key language. Otherwise, it won't work for you. Or try to use pretty print. The Python file is getting bigger, and with just Kiwi language it looks ugly. The include KiwyLang directive comes to the rescue. With include, you can throw the special lambda functions into a separate Kiwi file that doesn't need to be loaded like an ordinary application Kiwi file. This extended for loop will take an argument a, call it, and pass the return value to the callable c. As you can see, assembling a function for all needs with lambdas is quite easy. Let's look at something more practical. What if we can add more than a single widget to the parent with just the lambdas? While this attempt doesn't do it directly, it allows to add multiple widgets in a for loop with specified keyword arguments. Let's see the result. What if we don't want to call the function manually? Can we somehow call it when the widget is added to the parent? Well, yes and no. This is really a hacky way, as we have to make sure the function gets called only once. Otherwise, on each parent change, even for removing the widget from a parent, such a function will be called if we assign it to an on-parent change. Why do add only a single widget if we can do much more? Let's create another for-widget function and add multiple widgets from a list. The list will contain a widget class and a dictionary of keyword arguments. It has to contain at least an empty one in this implementation. The part is getting messy, so we will create another as a container for our functions to see the changes properly and to be able to remove all of the added widgets at once. Okay, let's leave the for loops. I bet you have already faced a problem where you wanted to just swap two widgets, but either the code was too long, or you had to switch entirely to Python and only call the function in Kiwi file. Well, even this is possible with the lambdas, although it's not as pretty as it could be. For this, we will use special variables to store the order of a particular child in the widget subtree to use it later. Note that for the set directive to work, we have to have the expression written in a single line, which is rather unfortunate if you want to keep the readability. Then again, we have to choose between the readability and efficiency. And for me, especially with some simple stuff with for loops, wins the macro-like approach. I'll have a link in the description to a repository made specifically for these Key language extensions, so feel free to contribute with other useful Lambda functions. I guess that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel.